everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you in this video. So, in this session, we will discuss and learn that how can we analyze the data that we have got from the impedance analyzer and then how can we plot this data graphically in the origin software. So, as you all know that impedance is a method or technique by which we can measure the electrical properties of a sample. So now if you want to know more about this particular technique, you can refer to one of our older videos where it has been clearly explained along with an experimental demonstration. Now here, as you can see, there is an Excel file which contains the data, which basically includes the corresponding impedance values which are marked in Z, measured in ohms, and against the corresponding frequencies. And we have taken the triplicate data of all samples and we have calculated the average impedance rate value for all the samples. So for our demonstration, we have taken 5 samples, that is A, B, C, D and E. And then finally, we have tabulated our master sheet where we have simply taken the corresponding frequencies and along with the average Z values of all the samples. So what we'll do is, to plot this data in the origin software, you have to copy this entire data and paste it in the origin workbook. So how to copy in a simple way and an easy way? We will simply first click on this, okay? Then we will in the keyboard we will click, we will basically press Control Shift and then the right arrow, which will select the first row, and then we will simply click on the down arrow where we will have the entire tabulated form of all the values selected. We'll simply do Control C to copy this data. We'll go to the origin. This is the origin basically. We'll maximize this window and we will paste it. Okay, so we have got this. So we will simply drag for our convenience. And what we will do now, we will select all these columns and we will simply click on this line graph line to have the line graph plot. So this is the raw data graph that we get after we plot the impedance values in the origin software. Now we have to do some refining in order to understand the basic differences or the minor differences between the impedances of the sample. In order to understand the differences in the graph, that is the impedance, that is which sample has the highest impedance, which is the lowest impedance. First of all, the first step will be to change the scale of the y-axis and the x-axis. Okay, first what we will do, we will simply double click on the y-axis and a window will appear where we can change the scale of the y-axis and the x-axis depending on our graph. That is how we want to represent the graph. So here let us take minus 250 to 20,000. Okay, and click on OK. So our graph will change accordingly. Similarly, we will click here also, double click here. A window will come. We'll just simply type minus 50 to 1100. Now this value is not fixed. I am doing it because for our convenience. You can do it as per your own convenience. Okay, and click on OK. So this will change accordingly so that we have a uniformity in the graph. Now what to do, we will change the axis labels because we are plotting the graph of impedance versus frequency. So here what we will do, we will simply type impedance in ohm, okay, and we will type here frequency in hertz. Okay. Now you can make the axis labels bold by just double clicking on it and just clicking on the B. B means bold. And here also what you can do is you can just select it and then clicking on B, that is bold. Okay. You can also increase the font size of the axis labels or the axis numbers by just clicking a single click on it and then clicking on this so that you can have it. So one problem which I want to share with this particular origin is that sometimes you might get this C. This C is basically an error. There is no need to worry here because your final graph will not contain C. I'll show you how to get the final graph after we have done with the analysis and all. And also a single click here and then we can increase the font size. Now the major part comes, that is when we have to enlarge or we have to maximize the area where we can actually analyze or understand that what are the impedances that are there in the samples or what variation in the impedances are there in the samples. So in order to understand, we will simply go to this button called the scale in button. Okay, we will have a single click and then what we will do, we will press the control key in our keyboard, keep it on pressing, continue keeping to keep on pressing, and just what we will do is we will select with our left click in the mouse, we will select this particular area of convenience and we will hold the control key unless and until the enlarged graph also comes. Okay, so here is the original graph and here is the enlarged one. Okay, now our major objective will be to show that the enlarged graph is here with respect to the portion that we have selected for our enlargement. What we will do is, this C is an error. Okay, just remember that this C isn't simply an error. What we will do, we will simply click on this particular graph, we will right click on copy and we will have a, and what we'll have, we will just simply minimize this window, we will click on Control V so that we can have our graph ready. And then what to do, we will click on this and then we will simply do it. Okay, now what we will do, we can decrease the size of the graph as per our convenience and we can drag it anywhere, everywhere we can drag it. So we don't require this particular portion, you can have it as per your convenience. It will be deleted, right? So now what we can do, we can drag along depending on where you want to place or where you want to position. So the enlarged graph is here and the original graph is here. Okay, so now as I've shown you how to change the labels, how to change the font, you can also change it here also. I'll show you once more. Like you just double click on the labels and simply you write impedance. Okay, so you just select it and click on bold and here what you can see is this frequency in hertz. Okay, now if suppose C doesn't come in your origin, so it's very good, then you will not have to repeat another step which I will show you at the last of the video. Okay, and then you can increase the font size, you can just drag it along as per your convenience and you can just increase the font size depending on how you want to represent your graph. Okay. Right, and you can just increase the line length of this graph by just single click on it and then go into this button to find out like 2 or 3 whatever you want to. Okay, now another point will be, this is the portion that will enlarge. Okay, so to have a clear, so to have a clear picture of our enlargement, what we will do is we will go to this tool, circle tool, we will click and simply we will draw a circle with our left mouse. Okay, we will drag it along depending on the position. Now what we will do, we will click on this red box, we will drag it along to an area that is not required actually. We will simply double click. Okay, and what we will do, in the border portion we will do white and fill pattern portion we will simply click on none so that this box can disappear. So this box is not required. Now what we will do is, just in order to highlight that which is our enlarged portion, from where the enlarged graph has come, what we will do, again double click, so it will come. Now we can give any color, like let's say we give red, we increase the width to let's say 1.5, type let's say we have here like a dash, okay, and for the fill pattern we will keep none, because we want to highlight the area, just border the area that from where we have done the enlargement. Okay, so this is okay, right? So we have got this enlarged portion. Now last but not the least, this is another way of representation. We have a curved arrow tool. Now how to do it? First we will drag with our left left mouse button, like we will do this, then leave it, then do this, then leave it, then do this, then leave it. Okay, just then leave it. Okay, so now it has already come, so we can drag it off depending on your convenience, and thus we have the impedance graph. Okay, so this is the impedance graph that we can generate. Now what we can do is, accordingly we can label, because I have not labeled here B, C, D, E, F. So accordingly you can name your samples here. Where can we name our samples? In the book. So let me just show you. In the book you can label your samples. Like BY, CY, DY, EY, EY, FY. So if you just double click on this particular in the particular column, so there will be a window name short name. So you can write like short name, whatever you can write, like suppose for example sample 1. If you write sample 1, okay, just click on OK. So automatically your graph will also be changed. So here also your graph will change accordingly, because you have to do this basically like before you enlarge the graph. Okay, so this is how we can generate the graph. Now what we will do is, after you have generated this entire graph, the final step will be, we'll go to file, okay, and then we will do save project for saving this particular like graph project. So this is basically a project, like suppose I'm title as let's say demo. Okay, so what we will do is, we will do this. So this step is basically for the people who are getting C in their graph. If you don't have, if you don't have or encounter this C, then I'll show you another step. The next step will be, it can be directly done in your computer directly without having to close this and again opening the origin. So let us close this origin for once. Just 1 minute. So we will close the origin, and then what we'll do is, we will again reopen the origin. Our first goal will be now to reopen the origin. So this is the origin basically. So we will reopen the origin, and we will open the file where the graph is located basically, and simply we will export the graph so that we can paste the particular graph in the picture. So let us wait for the origin to open. Okay, so our origin has opened up. Now whenever we want to open a file in the origin, so what we will do is, we will move our cursor to file. Okay, now we will go to open. Now what we will do is, we have this demo, right? Demo. Now in order to export this graph from this project, what we will do is, first we'll go to file, okay, and then we will go to export graphs. We'll go to open dialog, and a window will appear. Okay, so now what we can do is we can export in any format. So generally we can choose JPG, or it may be BMP, or it may be TIFF, or it may be PNG, depending on your requirement. Suppose I'm choosing here JPG. Okay, and then what will I, now this button can be used to select that where you want to keep the file and in which file name. Let's suppose we save it as graph demo. Okay, click on save, and then we will click on OK. So our graph will be exported. So now we can minimize our screen, and then we can go for the graph demo. So our final graph will come into action. So this is the original graph, and this is the enlarged graph. Now, depending on your sample name, your sample type, you can rename the samples as I've shown you. I'll just show you again once more that if this is your graph, just go to the workbook. This is the workbook sheet, and from here what we can do is you can just double click on the columns, any column that you want to rename or change, and you just change the short name. Just type anything and click on OK, so the short name will change accordingly. Okay, so this is the end of the video. Thank you so much.